Please note that this content is for adults only. Viewer discretion advised. If you haven't yet, hit the subscribe, like, and share. Hello everyone and welcome back to another live stream with me, Grizzly. This is Grizzly True Crime, and today we continue to look at the Delphi murders. The case, shame, with two girls aged 14 and 13, Libby German and Abigail Williams, were murdered in this tiny community, 3,000 people, Delphi, Indiana, on February 13th of 2017. So we have done a deep dive on this case for quite some time now, and we keep on looking at this back and forth of the documents, right? Here, we're a little nerdy. We love documents, okay? So I find them very interesting. If you like them too, and you like the way that I present documents to you, remember to like the video and share it. Hashtag justice for Abby and Libby. Hashtag Abby and Libby works as well. Hashtag Delphi. And if you could add hashtag Grizzly True Crime, that would be great as well. Welcome to all my moderators. Thank you so much for everything you do. Welcome to all my patrons. I appreciate your support on Patreon so much. Welcome to all my members. We'll have a members-only live stream again soon. And also to all the original Grizzlies, which means you were already subscribed before this live stream. And then welcome to all the new Grizzlies who are going to subscribe today. Everybody's welcome here. All you got to do, free, hit the subscribe button. Best source of support is watching my videos, okay? You don't have to do anything more than that. Just watch the videos, and I really, really appreciate it. So, there are 5 documents. It's not long, though, that we're going to look at. I am also aware of hearings taking place in other cases coming up later today. I'm going to keep an eye on that to see if it's anything interesting to share with you. There's obviously lots of cases that we're keeping track of over here. So if this is not the case you're following with me, don't worry, there's plenty that I'm always covering and we go over it together. Okay, so let me before I dive into this document, just do a very quick little reminder. On February 13th of 2017, 14-year-old Libby German and 13-year-old Abby Williams went for a walk on the Monon High Bridge Trail, and they crossed the bridge. At around 2:13 p.m., Libby caught a video and audio of a creepy man walking up to them. He instructed them to go down the hill, which they later said was guys down the hill, and their bodies were found the next day. So I'm just going to give you a preview of this presentation. This is basically, we went over everything. This was a deep dive just a week or two ago, right? And we went over what all of this, who's who, what happened, the prosecutor, Nicholas McClelland. So when we say now the state responds, you can visualize Nicholas McClelland is responding to the defense team. There you can picture the suspect, Richard M. Allen, and his defense team. And we've gone over all of this. So please do check out the playlist if you're feeling a little lost today, because I feel like we've done so many of these deep dives that would be beneficial, right? And so, yes, and on Patreon, I do share all the documents with you as well. So they're already there if you do want to read through these documents by yourself. Thank you so much, before I get started, to MB Inc. for sending me these documents today. Normally I email the lady in Carroll County, but sometimes it takes a little bit of team effort because you have to kind of sniff when there's new documents. They don't really, they don't really say. It's just like, oh, there could be. And then we email and like, so do you have got any new documents back there? And then, yes, there were some new ones. So thank you so much to MB Inc. He's a YouTuber. You could check out his channel, MB Inc., okay? For sending me the documents today. I was very excited to receive it. It's like a gift, in my inbox when I receive documents. So, love those. So, we did a deep dive into this Odinism and the Norse beliefs. We looked at texts and all kinds of things before. I'm just showing you a preview again of what we'd gone over already. Okay, and what the defense is saying. And while many people, of course, will say the defense is just doing their job, they're creating reasonable doubt, something is a little fishy in Delphi. I feel like a majority has always felt that way. So it's been very interesting to look into, well, what could be going on there, right? Okay. So let's go into this. They said state of Indiana, County of Carroll, state of Indiana versus Richard M. Allen. He is the prime suspect the only one who's been arrested so far. Of course, Superintendent Doug Carter, who's spoken a lot about the case, said that this investigation is far from over. If anyone needs to be arrested, anyone else, there will be more arrests. So, many people who have followed the case closely for a long time have felt, well, where is there going to be another arrest? Like, would there be? When will it be? Who knows? Maybe it really is a lone wolf killer right now is innocent or proven guilty in a court of law, but we just never know. His trial is set to start on January 8th of 2024. Let's see if it does happen then. But based on this, seems like it's going to, because based on the last documents we looked at from the defense responding back to the state, they set a deadline for all discovery. They claimed they didn't have it all. Welcome doors of perception, and they wanted it all, and they've made a deadline for mid-November. But now the state has responded and said, okay, they've got no problem with the deadline. They've handed everything over already. So, okay. Anyway, so here we go. So they said, state's response to the defendant's motion for the discovery deadline. Now comes the state of Indiana by prosecuting attorney Nicholas C. McClellan, who you just pictured there, right? Okay. And respectfully files its response to the defendant's motion for discovery deadline and would ask the court to consider the following. 1. That the state of Indiana filed 2 counts of murder against the defendant on October 28th of 2022 under that Indiana code. Remember, we looked at that code before. It's on the playlist as well. It's interesting in itself to read through that, right? So, 2. That at the time of finding the discovery material in this case consisted of thousands of tips consisting of phone messages, emails, thousands of police reports, video interviews, audio interviews, lab reports, pictures, phone extractions, and other documents of the like. 3. That this investigation involved multiple law enforcement agencies from around the world, including local and state police, United States Marshal's Office, and the FBI. 4. That when the state filed the charges, the discovery was not in a format that could easily be provided to the defense, meaning that all the paper documents had to be copied or scanned, and all the electronic data had to be copied to external hard drives, and all reports from law enforcement had to be collected. 5. That this consisted of hundreds of man-hours to copy each paper document. Imagine it. Can you imagine it? Oh my goodness. And associated with a 6-year investigation, along with copying millions of terabytes. Whoa. We gotta tell that to Rex Uriman's attorney, right? Here in Delphi, they're talking millions of terabytes. Because remember, he's talks about 8 terabytes of information of data they're working through. While here, copying, which they said copying, but okay, copying millions of terabytes of electronic data for the defense. Yes. Stefan reminds us thousands of tentacles and millions of terabytes. My goodness. Moving on. 6, that the state believes it has turned over everything. So it's interesting. They say when someone says, well, I believe so, they're not that confident. You know what I mean? It's better if you said the state has turned over everything. That would be more factual. We learn a lot over there from the behavior panel. A lot of things and channels like that, right? Anyway, so the state believes it has turned over everything in its possession and has no objection to the discovery deadline. It makes me feel like they're just play it cool, everyone. No worries, we believe that we have handed everything over. 7, that the state may learn of information in a deposition setting where the defense counsel is present that will need to be investigated to prepare for trial. 8, that does not mean that the state has reopened any investigation. It simply means that the state is doing its due diligence to prepare for trial. True, but also they're talking about the defense's claims that Sergeant Jerry Holder suddenly, after the memorandum in support of a Frank's motion filed by the defense, remember, I'm not an attorney, guys. I'm just letting you know, if you're new here, I'm not an attorney, okay? We just look at documents and lay people, Grizzlies, we're just reading through it and trying to make sense of it ourselves as the case moves along. So, from my understanding, from what we read earlier, there was that memorandum in support of a Frank's motion. And they said that there's this mystery professor that claimed in the beginning of the investigation, no, this has got nothing to do with Odinism or ritual cults or anything, and then the investigators just kind of dropped it from there. But then, a day after that memorandum for Frank's motion was filed, Sergeant Jerry Holder suddenly came up with the name of that professor. Found the professor, interviewed the professor, and they've re-interviewed all the people that the defense has named. Well, many of them. They named about 5 people that they said were part of this like Odinist group, and the state has apparently re-interviewed them. And so they're saying, doesn't mean we're reopening the investigation. It means we're doing our due diligence to prepare for trial. Which makes sense. Okay, so that the state will discover any exculpatory evidence received in preparation for the trial. We're here at number 10, that the defense's theory that the state is intentionally withholding evidence because it is exculpatory is not true. Okay. 11, there was never any evidence intentionally withheld from the defense at any time. 12, that the state does not believe it is in possession of any exculpatory evidence for the defense. 13, that the allegation that the state held onto evidence until it knew about the defense's theory has no basis or facts in support thereof. Okay. 14, any additional requests for discovery have been answered, and any discovery in possession of the state pursuant to the request has been turned over. 15, that the defense has not turned over one piece of evidence from their investigation, interviews, or their participation in this case. Do they have to turn over pieces of evidence or what? Do they just mean they're saying things? They're just saying things. Okay. Big Fish Small Pond says they can't find the professor. They are investigators. Yeah. GTFO. Yeah, well, they found them just one day after that motion was filed, according to what the defense has said. So they said that the state requests any discovery deadline be imposed upon both parties, and the defendant be subject to Carroll County local rules, in which the defendant is required to disclose the names of any witnesses he intends to call a trial or any hearing, along with their last known addresses, copies of their recorded statements and or recorded statements, any books, papers, documents, photographs, or tangible objects that he intends to use as evidence at trial or any hearing, any medical, scientific, or expert witness evaluations, statements, reports, or testimony which may be used at trial or any hearing. So they're like, okay, oh, you have some witnesses, huh? Tell us who they are. Tell us everything. So they say any defense, procedural or substantive, which the defendant intends to make at any hearing or trial, any record of prior criminal convictions known to the defendant or the defense counsel that may be used for impeachment of the persons whom the defense intends to call at any hearing or trial. The state has received no reciprocal discovery thus far. 17. Further, the state would ask the court to admonish the defense to turn over any evidence as they get it and not dump all the evidence on the state on November 1st at 11:59 p.m. So I'm guessing that was probably the November 1st was the deadline that the state had asked for. And so they said, wherefore, now comes the state of Indiana by prosecuting attorney Nicholas C. McClellan and files their response to the defendant's motion for discovery request and asks the court to consider the same and for all other just and proper relief in the premises. Signed by Nicholas C. McClellan. So that's one down. The rest, they get shorter. This one is 6 pages, so we're going to go through this one, then 3 affidavits, okay? And the 3 affidavits are interesting because the correctional officers admit, yes, they did wear patches on their uniform, which is not normal. According to lots of also correctional officers that have been in chat, you're saying, no, we don't wear patches on our uniforms. You can't do that. Well, guess what? In Delphi, you could. Until September of 2023. Yes. So, State of Indiana versus Richard M. Allen. The state's response to the defense's verified motion for immediate transfer of custody. Of course, the defense is claiming Richard Allen is being treated like a prisoner of war, like a dog, like I don't know, I've used a lot of language there, that he's just deteriorating. They need to move him. They want to move him and all of that, right? We've seen that. Yankee says Grizzly could be a rapper. My gosh, good flow. Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you so much. Okay, so now comes the state of Indiana by prosecuting attorney Nicholas C. McClellan and respectfully files its response to the defendant's verified motion for immediate transfer of custody and would ask the court to consider the following. 1. The charges were filed against the defendant Richard Allen on October 28, 2022 for 2 counts of murder in violation of the Indiana Code 3542 1-1 in brackets 2. The brackets 2 is fairly interesting if you want to look it up yourself if you didn't follow our live streams on it, right? 2. That it's just like bullet points. It's just numbered. I just love this. I love this format. 2. That the Carroll County, maybe that's why I love documents, right? Okay, moving on. 2. That the Carroll County Sheriff's Department requested that the defendant be transferred to the Indiana Department of Correction for safekeeping and said the request was granted. 3. That the defendant was transferred to Westville Correctional Facility and has been housed there since November 3rd of 2022. That is where he allegedly, called his wife, confessed to her multiple times, called his mom, confessed to his mom, then started eating paper, breaking his tablet, and a few days later he was fine again, which is like, oh my goodness. Jody Moore, thank you so much. You said Grizzly is by far the best influencer out there. So much about facts and truth on all cases. We love you in Florida. Oh, thank you so much, Jody, and I do love Florida. And Cincinnati. Okay, all of America, everywhere, worldwide. We've got an international audience here. Yes. And so they say, do you remember that he was housed in a different prison before? Then the defense asked, can he be moved? And then he was moved. He's been moved a few times, but eventually, since this defense team was, on the case, he went to the Westville Correctional Facility. He's been there since November 3rd of 2022. Stephen says, safekeeping, even though no one threatened RA. Yes. And so people ask, why is he in a prison and not in a jail like others, right? And he looks pretty terrible in the pictures that they've shared. The state has said before that would be them exaggerating, like making Richard Allen pose like that, and that he had a whole pile of clean shirts. He had the one dirty shirt and he made his hands all. Remember that picture? Anyway, and they're saying, oh man, the defense is just putting it on, come on. But the thing is, he's in a prison, not in a jail, where he normally should be, because they want to keep him extra safe. Okay. And so there's obviously more security, better security. He could be segregated and all of that at this Westville Correctional Facility compared to the other jails in the area. So they said that within that facility, that is housed in a segregation unit for his safety and protection. 5. That the defense previously filed an emergency motion to modify the safekeeping order on April 5th of 2023, which was denied. We went over all of that. If you guys remember it, oh man, we've been over all of these documents. My goodness. Yes. Thank you, Marlies. Welcome. Truffle said unprofessional patches should not be allowed. They really shouldn't, right? So that already tells me that's it's interesting that they allow that. They're okay. Moving on. Not that strict there with their uniforms, which is surprising. Have you ever seen Superintendent Doug Carter check the uniforms of new police officers, new troopers? Oh my! He practically sniffs them. Oh my word! If you've never seen it, just check it out. It's on YouTube. Anyway, and so sniffle free. Moving on here. Let's go to number 6 where we were, right? That the defense then filed a motion to reconsider and request for due process a hearing on May 3rd of 2023. That a hearing was held, after which the court denied the defense's motion to modify the safekeeping order, stating that the allegations advanced by the defense were not supported by the evidence presented. The court added that the defendant was being treated more favorably than other inmates housed at Westville Correctional Facility. But then there was that other inmate. Now, I don't know, maybe he's just trying to get brownie points, in the prison, in the jail there. But he wrote to the court, he wrote to the judge that Richard Allen is being terribly mistreated in this facility. So that's interesting as well. I always try to consider all things as we go along. Anyway, so there's that. He was supposed to testify at one of the hearings, but then he didn't. He chickened out last minute. Okay, so then they said the court further commented that it was reasonable and necessary to house the defendant at Westville Correctional Facility to ensure the defendant's safety to prevent serious bodily injury to himself. Of course, if he's suspected of murdering little girls, you can understand that does not go down well in prison. So that's also why they need to protect him, so that he can get to the trial. That will hopefully be a fair trial, and that there will be justice for Abby and Libby. Wow, just Samantha. Is that true? Goodness, you said Sammy the Bull got an Odin tattoo while in jail. It's the highest honor amongst prisoners. Interesting, very interesting. So here they said now, That the defense has now... defendant said to prevent serious bodily injury to himself. Yeah, okay. That the defense has now filed a verified motion for immediate transfer of custody, alleging additional mistreatment of the defendant at Westville Correctional Facility. 10. That in the defense's latest motion, the defense now accuses Westville Correctional Facility correctional officers, Sergeant Joshua Robinson and Sergeant Randy Jones, of unjust and inhuman treatment, probably inhumane, of the defendant. That once again, the allegations in the defendant's motion, while colorful and dramatic, are not correct. They like to say colorful, bold, colorful, dramatic. Okay, so they say that the allegations, while colorful and dramatic, are not correct. That both Sergeant Joshua Robinson and Sergeant Randy Jones have worn patches that refer to Odinism. That those patches reflect Sergeant Robinson's and Sergeant Jones's religious beliefs and are not associated with any kind of cult. I'm just reading it again here. I'm just like, wait, what? Okay. So they just say that once again, the allegations, while colorful, are not correct. That both of them have worn patches that refer to Odinism. That those patches reflect Sergeant Robinson's and Sergeant Jones's religious beliefs and are not associated with any kind of cult. That Sergeant Jones did not remove the patches from his vest until ordered to do so by command. That Sergeant Jones is assigned to the B pod of the unit while the defendant is housed in A pod. That Sergeant Jones assists with moving the defendant from one spot to another within the facility and also has been tasked with a 15-minute check-in with the defendant facilitated by his mental health safety plan. That Sergeant Jones does not choose which detail he works and works the details that he's assigned to by his command. That Sergeant Jones did remain at his post while the defendant visited with his wife because that is what he was assigned to do. That the defense seems to imply that Sergeant Jones should have left his post in violation of his direct orders and therefore risk his employment just so the defendant and his wife have more privacy. Yeah, so calcification says, wait, so they did, that's what we're reading, and later there's affidavits of them saying from these sergeants that they did wear patches on their uniform to show their beliefs, but that it's not part of a cult. Very interesting. They're not supposed to wear it. So you see, it's interesting because what the defense said was like, they're wearing patches. And then the next minute, they were told, well, when they went back, they're like, oh, now they've taken the patches off. So that's true. That part is true. Okay. So we continue on. So I still think it's just a little red flag there. Okay, just a little one. Happy birthday to whoever's birthday it is in chat. I missed whose it was, but happy birthday to you. Thank you for spending your time here with us. So then they said, okay, that the defense seems to imply that Sergeant Jones should have left his post in violation of his direct orders and therefore risk his employment just so the defendant and his wife could have more privacy. The fact that the defense expects the defendant and his wife to have intimate privacy in a prison is astonishing. I mean, come on, Ted Bundy had it. I'm just kidding. He did have it. Ted Bundy had it. But I'm just like, no, we don't want that. I get what they're saying. That Sergeant Jones has never threatened, harassed, or spoken one-on-one with the defendant. That Sergeant Jones was never ordered by his command to threaten or harass the defendant. I mean, who would order it? Maybe he just did it. But let's give him the benefit of the doubt, right? And so they said that the defendant was tased. Oh, damn. Okay. That the defendant was tased twice between May 9th, 2023 and May 25th, 2023 because he would not follow the commands of the correctional officers. At one of those hearings, when he's dressed all in yellow and he's like all like, looking really, like walking all slowly and funny. Remember that? Walking out of one of the hearings? Apparently people said, we looked at it in a previous episode, he was saying, please, don't shock me, please don't shock me the whole time, which also concerned people about how they're treating him, right? Yeah, Kerry says, Grizzly True Crime, regardless, it's very interesting that these patches were worn and Odinist religion confirmed. Yes, because, people make like, Odinists, make-believe. It's not make-believe. It exists worldwide. I mean, that's quite actually offensive to say it's make-believe. No. So, the argument I've seen where people just like shrug this all off is, well, have you heard of it? Because I've never heard of it. So obviously then the defense is just using a tactic of something unknown that we could all be like, oh, but that's not it. You know, just because many people may not have heard of it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. You know what I mean? Okay, it does exist in Delphi, and there are groups, and they do meet for like ceremonies and light their torches and make runes and all kinds of stuff. So, moving on, and yeah, they were wearing patches. They were wearing the patches. So, okay. Yeah. So someone said that must have hurt like a... It must have hurt a lot when they tased him twice between May 9th and May 25th. Shame. May was not a good month for Ricky. Wow. The correctional officers are required to follow protocol when dealing with an inmate who is in violation of the rules. That Sergeant Jones did not tase the defendant out of anger, spite, or in an effort to hurt the defendant or treat him inhumanely. That Sergeant Robinson is assigned to a pod where the defendant is housed. That Sergeant a little bit of tasing. Right, so that Sergeant Robinson was never ordered by his command to threaten or harass the defendant. That Sergeant Robinson also continued to wear his patches until ordered to remove them by command. Okay. Interesting. That inmate Robert Baston has written... There we go, that's that one. Yes, he's written a few letters to the court claiming that correctional officers within Westville Correctional Facility are corrupt. That inmate Robert Baston is a convicted child M under cause number serving a 40-year sentence. That throughout his case, Robert Baston has asked for modification after modification throughout his case, citing wrongful conviction, the Rona pandemic, and even because the DOC is providing the wrong kind of soap. The wrong kind of soap. Yeah, Kerry says exactly. So the facts support the possibility of this scenario. Yeah, I was going to say that. I'm glad you said it. Hope Paul Sanchez said, Rick seems like the type to go by jailhouse rules. Right? Shame. Anyway, so, okay. Moving on, they said here that at the hearing, that's the one I was talking about earlier, okay? That at the hearing on June 15th of 2023, the defense subpoenaed inmate Robert Baston to court so that he could give a sworn statement to the court, and inmate Robert Baston refused to leave his cell. That's what I meant. He was chickening out. Okay, I don't know why you guys are saying the sound is in and out. Okay. Check. I don't know what they did to fix that. Audio in and out. That must be a YouTube thing again, right? So refresh your page, everyone. Are you hearing me? Check. Stefan says audio is sharp. That's how we'd say in South Africa. Yeah, we are sharp with the audio. Okay, if your sound is bad, refresh. So, Robert Baston was this other inmate who said that Richard Allen was being abused, but then when he was asked to actually testify and say that in court, he chickened out, okay? And so, that's what we looked at last year, 34, that at the hearing on June 15th, there we go, they subpoenaed him, and he refused to leave his cell. The allegations by inmate Robert Baston are hardly credible. That the defense's allegations that the correctional officers are attempting to conceal unacceptable practices is false. That Sheriff Tony Liggett has no vested interest in keeping the defendant at Westville Correctional Facility other than the safety and well-being of the defendant. That the defense insinuates that Sergeant Robinson and Sergeant Jones were assigned to assist with the moving of the defendant because they believe in Odinism, and that the Westville Command intentionally did this in some effort to mistreat the defendant. So they wear the patches and they believe in Odinism. Wow. Okay. I do not know what to do about that, guys, because everything is fine over here. And for some people, the sound is great. And for others, not. So that's a YouTube thing, right? And you're all like, wait, you want to hear it. You want to hear it. Check, mic check. Are we back at mic check? Is it because I'm talking about Odinism? Am I exposing anyone? Okay. Moving on. So, I mean, the defense insinuates that they were assigned to assist because they believe in Odinism. Okay, that the warden, John Gallipow, has signed an affidavit attached to this response that ensures that no one in command had an agenda related to Odinism or ever ordered anyone under their command to harass or threaten the defendant. Yes? And so, they say that, don't you love it when YouTube messes with us? Is it YouTube? Or is it the... Listen, Odinists. Shh, we're just looking at documents over here, man. Come on. Are we ready? So, they said Sergeant Jones and Sergeant Robinson have both signed affidavits attached to this response that outline their duties in the facility and affirm that they have never threatened, harassed, or made any references to Odinism to the defendant. That both Sergeant Joshua Robinson and Sergeant Randy Jones were interviewed at Westville Correctional Facility by investigators on September 18th, 2023, and both were found to be cleared of any wrongdoing. That neither Sergeant Robinson nor Sergeant Jones are part of a radical hate group. That the defense continues to make unfounded accusations supported by absolutely no proof. That the defendant is isolated for his protection and would be isolated if he were moved to another facility. That if the defendant is moved to the Cass County Jail, he will be placed in essentially the same kind of holding cell that he is in now, with the exception that it would be more convenient for the defense. Okay. Excellent, Barbara. Everybody do this if you're struggling, okay? I like how everyone says the sound is clear and where they're from. Yes, so Stefan's like, so that's a no to Odinism, to Odinism by the prosecution. Yes. So they said, 46, that the Carroll County Sheriff's Department does not have the manpower to transport the defendant. Okay, they don't have the manpower to transport him? You mean up and down? Which they said is about 20 miles or so, I think. That the Carroll County Jail does not have mental health counselors or counseling, whereas the Department of Corrections has those resources available for the well-being of the defendant. Now there, I can imagine that if the defense is like, we're going to go with the insanity plea later. Can they do that in Delphi? Can they do that in Indiana? I haven't checked on that. Can't remember. But if they're like, ooh, okay, so if they move him somewhere where they can't check on his mental health, they don't have the same resources, then later they can claim, yep, nope, lost his mental health. You know what I mean? So I see that. If that's the defense's plan, I don't know. 48. That the defendant is in no way being treated less fairly than anyone else in that facility. He certainly is not being treated less fairly than a convicted person in that facility. Okay. Oh my goodness. Carla said, Grizzly to crime, my grandma's neighbor is one of RA's attorneys, and she's already said he's done in this field after this case. It's terrible the way they are treating this team. Whoa. Like done in the field completely? Oh no. Okay. And so, let's continue on, sorry. Let's just focus here. That the colorful, see they like that, dramatic language used by the defense was an attempt to curry public favor for their client and try this matter in the public eye instead of in the courtroom, as they've done in several motions to date. That again, the state has no opinion on where the defendant should be housed awaiting trial, but the state does take offense to the irresponsible allegations of the defense in their motion, including accusing 2 correctional officers of wrongdoing with absolutely no proof of such. That the state has no objection to the defendant being moved to a facility within the Department of Corrections to better accommodate his needs, but the court has already addressed that issue in previous orders. That the defendant's current placement at Westville Correctional Facility is not a violation of his civil liberties. That the conditions that the defendant is housed in has not changed since the last time the issue was litigated in front of this court on June 15th of 2023. That the Carroll County Sheriff's Department declined the request of defense to move the defendant because the Carroll County Sheriff's Department does not have the manpower to transport the defendant. Like, I don't get that. Why? Well, they're like, we don't have the manpower. For the most high-profile case ever in the area, you don't have the manpower to transport the suspect. I'm just saying. Right? Okay, yes, and Cleveland Rocks is not a convict. That's true. Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying there. Because they're saying here that he's not being treated less fairly than a convicted person in that facility. Ooh, we're highlighting now. We like that. And he's not a convicted person. Exactly. He is a suspect. And so, they say, the Department of Corrections is more equipped to transport the defendant back and forth to court dates in order to keep the defendant safe. Okay, and ensure that he makes it to all future hearings. That the defense is consuming the limited resources of his office and this court with repetitive motions that lack any factual basis. Wherefore, now comes the state of Indiana by prosecuting attorney Nicholas C. McClellan and files their response to the defendant's verified motion for immediate transfer of custody and would ask the court to consider the same when making its decision and for all other just and proper relief in the premises. So there, we've got that. Now we look at the affidavits of these officers, okay? There's 3 of them. 3 affidavits. They're each a page long. Is it a page long each? Wait. That one's 2 pages. Yeah. 1 page, 2 page, 2 page, okay? So, I'm just checking what you guys are saying. Awesome. So, affidavit. John, I hope I'm saying it right. I don't know if I am. Gallipau, the acting warden of Westville Correctional Facility, which is part of the Indiana Department of Correction, affirms and swears to the following. This was dated 10/10/2023. That the defendant, Richard Allen, is housed in the Westville Correctional Facility in the segregation unit. That the defendant is housed in that unit for his protection. That the cell that the defendant is housed in is a 12 by 8 cell, which is the standard size cell in that facility. That the correctional officers guarding the defendant are assigned to that unit by myself and command. That the correctional officers at Westville Correctional Facility, there we go, were allowed to wear any patches on their vests until the allegations made by the defense in their motion. So they were allowed to wear patches. Okay, that Westville Correctional Facility offers religious services if there are at least 5 individuals that practice the religion in the complex, and to date we have not had more than 5 individuals in the complex request to hold services related to Odinism. Okay, so if it's the 2 officers, speculatively, that are Odinists, they wouldn't even be included in the 5, right? Would they? You know what I mean? If the religious services, aren't they for the inmates? Or not? Is it for the staff as well? I would just think it's normally for the inmates, and they're like, no, we haven't even had 5, okay, within this facility. Okay, but you've got 2 working there. 7, that the defendant is on video while he is in his cell and when he's moved from his cell. 8, that the defendant is monitored by at least 3 correctional officers at all times during movement. That Sergeant Randy Jones and Sergeant Joshua Robinson were never placed on duty at the cell door to act as a suicide companion of the defendant one-on-one. All right. That I have never received any reports that Sergeant Randy Jones and Sergeant Joshua Robinson have mistreated the defendant. Well, I'm just going to say it. Even if you haven't received reports, doesn't mean it doesn't happen, you know what I mean? But you never know. Okay. Panda Place, that's a cool name. You said, so happy I found this community. Yes, thank you for supporting the channel for 8 months. And so, they say that I have never received them, that no one in the facility has ever been ordered by command. Could they be ordered by hint, by a wink? That I never by command to threaten, harass, or put the defendant in danger. That the defendant is housed by himself and does not have any direct contact with other inmates. That I do not have an agenda or a vested interest in keeping the defendant incarcerated in a facility that is ripe with connections to Odinism. A lot of interesting statements in these documents, don't you say? I'm like, wow, very interesting, very interesting. Yes, Not the Cute said, wouldn't staff practice religion outside of work hours? Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, right? And so, they say, okay, one more time, that I do not have an agenda or a vested interest in keeping the defendant incarcerated in a facility that is ripe with connections to Odinism. That Westville Correctional Facility has very few inmates. Very few that practice Odinism. And 15, that none of those inmates are housed with or next to the defendant. But the point is, They are there. So for all the naysayers that say, Odinism doesn't even exist, what a load of crazy theories. Well, there it is. It does exist. The staff are very strong believers in it. They've got patches on their uniform. Okay? They say there's not many inmates that practice it there. Kerry said, so jail boss says not receive reports yet affidavits related to it exist. Yeah, not by command, okay. Prem says, you rock Grizzly, the best of the best. Thank you so much. And Betsy's Barn said, imagine a prison allowing their guards to wear patches. What on earth? I know, right? It's quite something. Let's look at Affidavit 2. This is also 10/10/2023. Now, Sergeant Randy Jones, Correctional Officer at Westville Correctional Facility, which is part of the Indiana Department of Corrections, affirms and swears the following. That I am a correctional officer at Westville Correctional Facility. That I've been assigned to WCU unit of Westville Correctional Facility since December 11th of 2022. Currently assigned to B pod. So he's only assigned there recently, which I know my mind is like, oh, well, we could speculate, but we'll just carry on. That I have been an acting supervisor in A pod, where the defendant is housed since late February or early March of 2023. That I do not practice Odinism and that Norse paganism heathenry. And that Norse paganism heathenry is my practicing religion. So there you have it. I do not practice Odinism and that Norse paganism heathenry is my practicing religion. 5. That I do wear patches on my uniform that identify me as someone who practices Norse paganism heathenry. Oh, okay. Road trip memories is like, is that an Odinism patch on your uniform? Sure. It's all very interesting. Angel Ray says, is there any connection between Randy Jones and the defense team suspect BH? Who knows? Thank you for using abbreviations. Please continue to do that, everyone. Okay, so then they said that I do wear patches on my uniform that identify me as someone who practices Norse paganism heathenry. 6, that I started wearing the patches 6 or 7 months ago, and I did not stop wearing my patches until September 22nd of 2023, when ordered by my command to remove the patches. That the patches do not represent racism or a hatred for anyone. That I am not part of a cult. That I'm not part of a radical hate group. That the patches show my dedication to my faith and to my country. That the defendant is filmed with a handheld camera when he is moved from the cell for his safety. So they did film him. So this is actually quite a bit that the defense said that is turning out to be quite true. Yeah, they're splitting hairs here. Kerry said, so the patches equals Odinism and this guard is splitting hairs semantics. Right? Maui Mi says, applying a patch is an intentional act. Putting one on a uniform for work is advertising. I mean, it's quite something, right? You know what's ironic is that Kelsey German, Libby's sister, drove them to the bridge, right? And when, in an interview, when asked, you know, what did you guys talk about, what you do? She said they were listening to, I think it was 21 Pilots, but she said the song was like, Heathens. Do you remember that? Whoa, that's just ironic, okay? Just based on all of this and what the defense is saying. Yes. Okay, so I'm not throwing any shade anywhere. I just thought of that. I'm like, heathens. Okay, moving on. So they said, okay, the patches show my dedication to my faith and to my country. That the defendant is filmed with a handheld camera when he's moved from the cell for his safety. That I interacted with the defendant when I was in charge of holding the handheld camera to film his movements when he's moved from his cell to another area within the facility. So they do interact. He says that I interacted with the defendant when I was in charge, but yet the state said they never interacted with him. You know what I mean? They didn't talk to him. But okay, that I was also assigned periodically to check on the defendant at his door with his 15-minute checks implemented by his mental health plan. That the door checks, I would walk to the defendant's cell, make sure he's okay, and not at risk of self-harm, and then walk away. That I've never threatened the defendant. That I've never had a one-on-one conversation with the defendant about Odinism. That I do not know anything about the practice of Odinism. Now, if you believe in Norse pagan heathenry, how could you not know about Odinism. It's kind of like saying you're a Christian, but you've never heard of all the different, denominations. You know what I mean? Like you've never heard of Catholic and Baptist and Seventh-day Adventist and just all of them, right? You know what I mean? Like, nope, never heard of that. I mean, it's like so close. It's so close, right? Mountain Mama said, huge fan, G. I'm a former detention officer. Okay, see, we got some in chat. And then corrections. We would never add patches and we would have been fine. So what's going on? You know when we say something stinks in Delphi? Why? Why are they allowed to do this? That's why we say sometimes with many things, there's many things along the way where it's like, why, Delphi? Why? There's some shady stuff here and there, you know? Anyway, so Bama said, happy anniversary. I lurked as a subscriber for 3 months before joining. Thank you for being a lurker and then a chatter. Okay, yeah, Avocado Toast says, just keep your patches for outside work, FFS. They are not part of your work uniform, right? And so they say here, I've never threatened the defendant. I've never had a one-on-one conversation with the defendant about Odinism. I do not know anything about the practice of Odinism. That I've never had a one-on-one conversation with the defendant where I tried to influence him in any way. That I've gone above and beyond to not use any kind of force on the defendant, even though there have been times when use of force was justified by standard operating procedures. That's from the tasing, right? In May, twice. There have been times when I've gone above and beyond in order to be gentler with the defendant to prevent him from getting tased. That the defendant was tased twice between May 9th and May 25th because we could not get him to comply with our orders. Now, what were those orders? Maybe the defense will come back and be like, tell us what those orders were. Anyway, moving on. Let's not give them ideas. That I have never had an excessive force complaint filed against me while I have been employed at Westville Correctional Facility, which is all of like since December 2022. You know what I mean? And already there you're walking in with your patches. I'm just saying, it doesn't sound that professional to me, okay? I snarked a little bit. I snarked. Yeah, Stefan's like, it wasn't me. It was the taser. Yes. Okay. And so they say. Also, let me actually address this quickly. Donna Douglas said, I am of Viking ancestors. My grandmother was of Norse pagan religion. She did not sacrifice people or drink blood, but loved the earth and made her own medicines. Now that's valid. Remember that the rise of Odinism in America and across the world is actually what they say is white supremacists hijacking Odinism to use for their own purposes. They're kind of making it their own. You know what I mean? And we see that happen across the board in many religions, right? Okay. And so they said that I have been employed with the Department of Corrections since April 4th of 2022, and that this job is my passion and what I love doing. Okay. Like no one asked at that moment, but okay, good to know, good to know. I swear under penalty of perjury, as specified by IC 354421, that the foregoing representations are true and accurate to the best of my knowledge. Now let's look at the last one, which is also just 2 pages. Let's quickly look here. Yeah, it's a page and a half, okay? Last document for today. Sergeant Joshua Robinson, Correctional Officer at Westville Correctional Facility, which is part of the Indiana Department of Corrections, affirms and swears to the following. That I am a Correctional Sergeant at Westville Correctional Facility and have been since October 17th of 2021. I have been employed at Westville Correctional Facility since July of 2016. Okay. So. Yes. So, someone raised a good point in chat saying, you know, if one wears like a, I don't know, like a bracelet or like a necklace, you know, under your uniform to connect with what you believe in and all that, okay. But to like put a patch on your uniform and for that to be okay is very, very interesting. A little bit shady, if you ask me. So they said, sorry, I'm missing a few things here. Thank you so much, Michelle. You said, Grizzly, you're the best and the best mods and sub members. Glad you caught alive, Golden Fire. Nice to see you. So here they say, so this guy had been there since July of 2016, that I'm assigned to WCU unit of Westville Correctional Facility A pod, but have been working on B pod since the spring of 2022. That the defendant is assigned to A pod. That I do not practice Odinism. That I do wear patches on my uniform that can be, but are not associated with Odinism. Like that can be, but are not associated with Odinism. Panda Place, what? That's like a lot of groceries in South Africa. 1,500 South African rands. Oh my word. You said, thank you for creating a safe, calm, informative, and respectful community, G. Thank you for having the best mods on YouTube. Stay as kind and classy as you are. Keep up the amazing work. Love from Cape Town. Thank you so much, Panda Plays. Oh my goodness. I really appreciate it. Hometown, everyone. Cape Town says hi. Thank you. So, Flo Gray says, are uniforms government property? Maybe Mountain Mama, do you know? Are they? Are they? And so here they say, I do not, one more time, practice Odinism. I do wear patches on my uniform that can be, but are not associated with Odinism. I mean, they showed us the pictures. We looked at them from the defense's memorandum for Frank's, in support of a Frank's motion. Okay, so it seems like they weren't wrong, right? Then they said that the patches pay the utmost respect to my religious higher power the same way a Christian person would wear a cross. Okay, but a Christian person might, in a professional setting at work, wear a cross on a necklace under the uniform. To actually put that patch on is a little bit next level. It's a little bit shady, you know what I mean? Don't you think, guys? Morgan says, best channel on YouTube. Thank you, Grizzly, for your hard work. Mods are awesome. And happy Grizzly-versary, 1 year. Sleuthing Sandal says it makes their corrections look amateurish and out of control, unprofessional. And so they say, they do. The patches are true. I wasn't sure if that's going to turn out to be true. What did you guys think? I didn't think like, oh yeah, the patches are true and they are actually like, kind of like Odinism, but just a little bit different. Like, what? They actually do? They actually did? Wow, it turned out to be true. So they say that I'm not part of a cult, that I'm not part of a radical hate group, that I started wearing the patches when the vests were issued to me and stopped wearing the patches on September 19th, 2023, per the order of my commander. Now, the other guy said September 22nd, right? One was worn before the other, probably based on shifts and things, right? Aaron, happy Grizzly-versary. They say that the patches do not represent racism or a hatred for anyone, that I've never had any interaction with a defendant that was not recorded, that I've never had any one-on-one interaction with a defendant where we were alone together, that it would be impossible for me to have any one-on-one interaction with the defendant because policy mandates that any time you engage with a member of that unit, you must be accompanied by another officer, that the defendant is on a security plan that mandates that at least 2 staff members and a video camera are present when interacting with the defendant. Like, could they maybe put down the handheld cameras though and get professional cameras in the rooms? How about that? Sorry about that. It just seems like standing there with the handheld also just adds to the, like, what are you doing? Right? Stefan reminds us 3 weeks ago the prosecution was like, there's no patches whatsoever. Like, patches? What patches? These patches? Based on these affidavits? Yeah, a couple of patches there. Okay, and so they said that I've interacted with the defendant alongside Sergeant Jones, but that is always video monitored. So the 2 of you interacted with Richard Allen, but that was always monitored. Wow. Sure. Okay, so then they said that I've never threatened or harassed the defendant, that I've never had a one-on-one conversation with the defendant about Odinism, that I've never had a one-on-one conversation with the defendant where I tried to influence him in any way, that the only interactions that I have with the defendant are the ones that are required by my duties as a correctional officer. Any and every interaction that I've had with the defendant has been because I was ordered to do so by command. Command has never ordered me to threaten or harass or harm the defendant. They've never ordered them. Okay. When I do speak to the defendant, I give him basic commands as to how to move while he is in and out of his cell. And if he doesn't move how he's supposed to move, then he gets tased. We heard it. Okay, so that all my interactions with the defendant have been documented on a video camera. Was it handheld though? That I've always treated the defendant with a level of respect and professionalism. That the defense untruthfully targets me as part of a cult. That I'm not familiar with the evidence involved in the defendant's case besides what I've seen in the public media, which is a lot. It's only 6 years worth of stuff. I mean, that is all, okay? That is all. It would be like so much. Kathleen says we would not even be able to wear patches on our school uniforms, not even bags. So it's super sus that this was overlooked. Speaks to people creating their own rules. It does. It does. And so they said, that I'm not familiar with evidence, okay, except for what I've seen in the public media, which is tons. It's probably millions of terabytes. And so, that I've never had an excessive force complaint filed against me while I've been employed at Westville Correctional Facility. I swear under penalty of perjury as specified in the Indiana Rules, right, 354421, that the foregoing representations are true and accurate to the best of my knowledge. Whoa, that was a lot. That was a lot of like, wow. I wonder how the defense is feeling now, because they're like, see, told you. They're kind of like, yep, told you. Let's just see. I might have those pictures on here somewhere. Because here was the memorandum for the motion of a Frank's hearing. I recently did a video on this again, just to make sure that everybody's aware of that potential connection, an item of interest, something that represented ritual sacrifice or a ritualistic tone to the murders. Very interesting. If you haven't seen the video that I put up over the weekend, check it out. Dumbbell, I like that. MB Inc. says, are you going to live stream the dumbbell hearing? I'm not sure yet. I have to see what's going on there. So we looked at those, the Flora 4 as well, all the, the Evansdale murders, all the arson events. Oh my goodness. I just really want to see if I can see those pictures. Wait for it. Yes, we looked at that. That's little Dickie. Called his wife. Okay, admitted. He ate paper. Remember that? There we go. We were going there. Show us the patches. We went over that as well. We went over everything. Oh man, I've got the picture somewhere. There's like groups of Odinists in Delphi practicing a whole bunch of things. Strange deaths that have occurred, especially with law enforcement officers. There we go. These are the patches that they wore that says, I hate people. These are the ones that the defense put in their memorandum in support of a Frank's motion. That, I hate people, and in Odin we trust. Wow. Okay. So there we saw them. Great stuff. So that's it for now, guys. But look, nothing shocks me anymore, and I wouldn't be shocked. Would you be shocked if it turns out? I mean, this has turned out. This is from the state now. So it is true. They wore patches. It says, I hate people. In Odin we trust. And they're like, no, not Odinism. Well, if it says in Odin we trust, good luck arguing your way out of that one. Right? Anyway, so that's it for now. I know everybody wants to see what the heck Chad Daybell is doing. So do I. But I'm just going to see what is happening. What's the time now? It's supposed to be starting now. I'll have a look. If it's anything interesting, I'll see you again soon, okay? Otherwise, I'll see you either for like a YouTube short, a community post. It's just a standard hearing, I think, before. It's his hearing before he goes to trial. Okay. So that's it for now. Please like and share. If you haven't yet subscribed, please do so now. And I will see you again in the next one. I'm gonna hop on there, on Law and Crime Network in their chat and have a look at what's going on there. If it's very interesting, and there's tons of people there, we'll come here and watch it together, okay? We shall see. Thank you so much, Stefan. So yeah, lots of food for thought, especially now coming from the state. Interesting. So all the discovery will be handed over by November 1st. They say they've already handed it over, but they'll just, make sure and everything and proceed with the case. As we know, the trial is due to begin with jury selection on January 8th of 2024, so we shall see. Welcome, Carla. Welcome to all the new members. Thank you for everyone who supported the channel today in whatever way it was, even watching the videos. Thank you for watching this live stream here with me. I will see you again very soon, okay? Deep diving lots of things behind the scenes, working on things for you as always. If you don't see me just now, I'm working hard on something. I'm in some rabbit hole somewhere. Okay, everyone. I'll see you later. Bye.